They wanted to use the modern media against itself, to critique the power it has over our lives.
I'll kill the next man who speaks.
Gosh, what a...
The corporations are completely taking over our culture and telling us that we can only consume it. And we're saying no. We're saying we want to actually create with it, respond to it, take it, mutilate it, cut it up. We're saying, you don't ask us whether I want to have a billboard everywhere I go in my town. You don't ask me if I want to see your Nike logo everywhere I go. You don't ask me if I want to hear YouTube's music everywhere I go shopping or when I eat in a restaurant. So why do I need to ask you to take a little bit of it and make something out of it and make fun of you, critique you? Why do I need to ask?
Guns. Hello?
Well, the culture jammers, mouse warriors, and remixers of the world are up against one of the most powerful industries on Earth, big media. Once comprised of countless movie studios and record companies. 6 Hollywood studios and 4 major record labels now control Hollywood. And these companies are owned by even bigger companies. Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, News Corp, BMG, and General Electric own more than 90% of media holdings in the United States. All these companies are represented by 2 lobby groups, the Recording Industry Association of America and the Motion Picture Association of America. Like it or not, this is who owns and controls our culture. Their primary goal is to preserve the business model that made these corporations rich, even if it means convincing governments to halt the flow of new ideas, new technology, or better business models. But as powerful as these groups are, there is one thing that threatens their very existence. Yes, along with China and Russia, my home and native land was singled out as one of the world's worst pirate nations, and they sent their cops after us.
Jackie and I are on a mission to stop piracy. Help us stop piracy. That's terminated.
It started when Arnie came to talk with Prime Minister Steve about an international crisis. People making bootleg DVDs with their camcorders.
Jerseys. With the government, we would like to discuss environment, the trade, camcording we're going to talk about.
Certainly there's a lobby, there's a concerted corporate lobby to make us appear as though we are somehow derelict in our international duties if we don't enact whatever the industry lobby throws on our desk and says, this is our wish list, you must make it happen.
The wish list for Canada was simple: lock up culture. Which brings us to point 3. Our future is becoming less free. The thin edge of this wedge is technology known as digital rights management. Using this technology, the record and movie companies can prevent you from copying CDs, DVDs, and files to your computer. Rather than letting the law decide what you can and can't do, now some corporate software will decide for you.
I just call it the urinary tract infection business model. Right? It used to be that, like with a DVD, with a CD or with other media, all the uses of it flowed freely and easily. But with the new regime for DRM, every new use flows in a small, painful, spurting drip. Right? Every time you press a button on your remote, that's another 3 cents out of your pocket for the new rewinding right, and the new pausing right, and the new, watching this in your minivan right.
And free speech isn't in this Bill of Rights. So forget fair use. That's forbidden now. The only way I can make a mashup movie is to use software that breaks the locks put on these movies. But under Canada's proposed laws, that's a $20,000 infringement. I've done a lot of that. And I even gave a copy of the vault cracking software to my editor. Now he's on the hook for 20 grand. Sorry, Tony. And for giving him these tools, I could be fined $100,000 and go to jail for 5 years.
What we saw in the U.S. is that there was a real pressure to lock down every possible right. It becomes a question, are we talking about updating copyright for the 21st century, or are we talking about actually using this fear of copyright to bring forward a radical rewriting of copyright, so you actually have copyright in areas that would never be before?
So let's look at the American record. Lawsuits against 10-year-olds, subpoenas delivered at schools against stroke victims, against dead people. You can't put locks on your citizens.
The Honorable Minister of Industry.
I think it's only fair.
When you're online, it's easy to find out who you are, okay? We have the date, the name, the address, and all the 2,000 songs that you had up on your computer illegally, okay? And you can get 5 years in jail and $250,000 fines for every single song you steal.
Isn't that a little overboard?
No, the reason why, because there's a thing called intellectual property. Intellectual property is the property of somebody's mind, okay? If I write a song about love, my unique expression about love is my property, okay? I don't own the rights to the concept of love. I wish I did. That becomes my property. I have a copyright that lasts for my life plus 70 years.
How many of you guys here actually do download music off the internet right now? Tell the truth. Do you guys, like, how many of you guys actually think that when you're downloading your music that you're stealing it?
Since the internet came along, the entertainment lobby in the United States has pushed the government towards tougher and tougher laws, leading to lawsuits being filed against more than 24,000 American citizens.
My name is Dave Grubel.
Ray J. Schwartz.
I live in Colleyville, Texas.
I live in New York City.
And my family has been sued by the RIA.
They had about 9 or so songs targeted on there that we had allegedly downloaded.
They threaten you with a very large sum of money.
And they wanted somewhere around $4,500 to settle.
100,000.
I could be charged at a minimum $750 per song, all the way up to $150,000 per song.
Now they're going after my kids.
They're going after people on welfare. They're going after people on disability. They're going after people that don't have anything.
Most of these people were forced to settle. They couldn't afford to face the RIA in court. So without being found guilty of anything, they lost thousands of dollars, and not a penny went to the artists that were supposedly being defended. But when Jamie Thomas, a single mom in Minnesota, refused to settle, she ended up in court accused of downloading 24 songs, the equivalent of 2 greatest hits albums.
Okay.
Let's listen to her playlist of shame.
The verdict was that I had infringed, that I was liable for copyright infringement for 24 songs, $9,250 per song, for a total of $222,000. They can take up to 25% of my wages to try and pay back the amount.
Just a small town girl,
Mr. Gabriel, who is the lead attorney for the plaintiffs, said it best and the steps after the verdict was read. The very first statement out of his mouth was, "This is what happens when you don't settle." It wasn't a matter of, you know, we won or this, that, and the other. That's the very first thing he said.